Here's what's coming up in episode 171. Miranda Enzor of Spooky Little Halfoween. We're going to help you kick off your Halloween season early, y'all.
And so I was, scouring the internet looking for ideas. And I wanted just like a singular place on the internet where I could find Halloween and where I could find party ideas and themes and just cool things that I could go duplicate myself. And it didn't exist. There was stuff out there, but there was not a single space dedicated to Halloween that I could find. So when you don't find the thing that you want, you go and create it. That's exactly what I did. And that's kind of how Spooky Little Halfoween came to be. So write the Halloween blog you want. Halloween magic. That's what it is.
Yes, it is. Some hocus pocus.
Yes.
Welcome to the Big Seance podcast. I'm Patrick Keller of BigSeance.com, and this is a place for an open discussion on all things paranormal, but specifically topics like ghosts and hauntings, paranormal research, spirit communication, psychics and mediums, and life after death. So basically, anything that pops up in my paranormal world. The candles are already lit, so you might as well come on in and join the Seance.
The music you are hearing right now is by Sam Haynes out of the UK. Sam has allowed me to use and feature his music for years here on the show. He puts at least a new album out every year, and next month, September, his brand new album titled Ghostland will be released. I'll put links to Sam Haynes in the show notes. So why the spooky music today? Well, I've always wondered why some podcasters produce a Halloween episode, but they hold it back and release it right on October 31st. Not everyone is listening to podcasts on the day of Halloween, right? I mean, we're busy. We've got spooky plans. Lots of things going on that evening. Well, many listeners won't hear it until the magic of Halloween is over, which I think is a bummer. Well, if there's ever a year when I think we need to kick the Halloween season off a little bit earlier, it's this year, 2020. Gosh, we need some Halloween now. So I'm going to officially declare the season started by bringing you Miranda Enzor of SpookyLittleHalloween.com. She is wonderful. I absolutely love her, and she's going to help us save our favorite holiday in 2020. So pour your tea or whatever you're drinking, light lots of candles, and here we go. Miranda Enzor is the writer, blogger, and Halloween lover behind SpookyLittleHalloween.com, the blog celebrating October 31st all year long. Halloween has been one of her favorite holidays to celebrate for as long as she can remember. These days, she keeps her love of the spookiest day of the year alive by hosting her annual party, Halloweeny Roast, running the Halloween Book Club, And of course, writing spooky little Halloween all year long. Now, Miranda is very humble in her bio, so I'm adding some things to it because she does, oh my gosh, she does so many things. She has a weekly email newsletter called Treats, Not Tricks. She also creates a printed Halloween zine quarterly, including the most recent issue, which gives you all of the ways in which you can still celebrate Halloween in 2020. And I know you're all wondering about it. Now, the book club I just mentioned, the Halloween book club, it's on Facebook, and they read Halloween horror, supernatural, and otherwise spooky novels once per quarter. And I'll put all her information in the show notes, but you can find Miranda and her amazing and deliciously spooky content at spookylittlehalloween.com. Miranda, I am so excited to have you in the parlor here with me. How are you?
I am in need of a cup of coffee after listening to you read all that. I do a lot. I don't think about it, but that is a laundry list, isn't it?
I am telling you, first of all, your site is one of the most visually pleasing sites I have ever seen. You. It is beautiful, and you can tell that you put so much heart and effort and energy into it. But that's one of the first things I thought before I reached out to you. There are so many things you do for your readers, and there's this activity you're doing and this thing you just started for Halloween. And of course, the Halloween season's starting, so you're getting busier. And I'm thinking your to-do list and your calendar, just so you don't forget about what you've taken on, must be insane.
The to-do list currently is probably about 10 miles long, and I feel like I'm never going to get to the end of it. But I mean, it's kind of part of the fun for me too. You know, I tell my readers all the time that, you know, I'm a Halloween lover just like you guys are. I'm just, you know, I just put it on the internet on a website. So, you know, it's as much celebrating the Halloween season for them and giving them a fun outlet as it is for me celebrating it too. So I enjoy every moment of it.
Like, I have friends who do things like decorate all year long, and their life is very much, you know, Halloween all year long. And I always myself worried about that because Halloween is so special to me, and it's such a magic time for me that I've always loved. I've hesitated celebrating all year long because I'm like, am I going to burn it out? Will it not be special once October comes around? How do you explain that to people? Do you not worry about that?
That is such a great question. And, you know, as we're sitting here doing this interview, I know you're looking at me on Zoom, and I have a little, you know, Halloween outfit and some Halloween decor behind me in the video. And I know the listeners won't be able to see that.
We can take a selfie later, though, and they can see that.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm sitting in my Halloween office. And so this is the one room in my apartment that is Halloween all year long. And I do have some touches. Like, I have some of my cemetery photography that I've done in my bedroom. I have like one or two touches in my kitchen and stuff. But otherwise, I keep it pretty normal the rest of the year. For me, kind of part of the fun of Halloween is that tradition of bringing out the decor and decorating for a holiday. And I think that's true of any holiday, even once you get into, you know, the December holidays too. It's kind of the same thing for me. So I'm not one of those people. I like to keep it special during a certain time of year.
I totally get it. You know, and I guess you could compare it to people in this pandemic working from home. A lot of people having to separate one part of their life from another part of their life. And so that's one cool way to do it. You walk into your Halloween world and then you leave it.
Yes. I mean, not to turn this into a therapy session, but all those years of compartmentalizing for me have paid off, I guess, with this. And I can come in here and be spooky and do my Halloween stuff and then walk out and be, you know, my normal Miranda that the rest of the world gets to see.
That is awesome. I didn't know you did cemetery photography. We could talk about that a whole other episode.
Nice. Just for fun, you know, I love wandering, especially older historic cemeteries. And we have plenty of those here in Texas. So I just got into the habit of wandering them. I do have an Instagram account for that. Miranda Wanders Cemeteries, if you want to come check it out. Yeah, just a little hobby, and definitely an area where I have a lot to learn. So
it's been way too long since I have roamed a cemetery with my camera. But yeah, it's a special place for me too. Let's say that I and all of my listeners showed up at your house for a Halloween party, and this is a magical no pandemic situation that we're imagining here, what drink would you serve us?
Well, for me, it depends on what my theme is. So with my Halloween party, and I actually didn't host it last year because I lost my party space, but I do a theme every year for my party. And so I always try to like do a signature batch cocktail basically for that. So what was the last one that I did? Gosh, the Monster Mash. That's what I did.
Aha.
That was my last theme. So I encouraged all my friends to come dressed, as their favorite monster, whatever direction they wanted to take that. And then margaritas are always a very popular cocktail with my friends. Like, I don't know if it's because we're from Texas or it's easy. We all love tequila. I don't know. All the above, probably. So margaritas are kind of the direction that I've gone. But the last round that I did a series of fall margaritas. So I did a cranberry one, which you can find on the blog. I did an apple cider one, which is coming to the blog this fall. And then I also mistakenly did a pumpkin spice one that was not good at all. So that recipe needed some tweaking, but we had fun.
That sounds like fun. Yeah. Pumpkin spice things are hit and miss with me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. My readers know I am on this endless quest or battle, I guess I should say, with pumpkin spice. I love baked goods. I have a really hard time with pumpkin spice in drinks, particularly coffee. And I am constantly embarrassing myself on Instagram, trying to force myself to find a pumpkin spice coffee that I love, mostly just to make people laugh. But
well, that's funny. So I just wanted to give people an idea other than what we've already hit on. But you on your blog, you have DIY projects, which are huge right now, and obviously party tips. And you have cool things like shopping cheat sheets to find your favorite Halloween seasonal stuff. And so, I mean, seriously, obviously you don't do it while you're driving, but if you're at home or in listening on a device right now, you should be going to this site, spookylittlehalloween.com. I think you could get lost in there for days. So before I completely nerd out and I just throw a whole bunch of nerdliness your direction, tell me about the spooky journey that led you to what you do now. And were you always a Halloween nerd?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I genuinely don't remember, for me, I kind of ask people this question all the time. Like, was there a moment when you fell in love with Halloween? Because I don't necessarily have one. If I could pin one down, I guess maybe when I was in junior high, we did this one strange year of year-round school in our school district. It didn't work well. But the first day of our month off in the fall was Halloween, or October, it may have been October 30th. Anyway, so on Halloween, I got up and I decided I was going to create this cemetery in the front yard. And we had 2 huge pine trees. So I raked up all the pine needles and created some little, grave beds that, looked like they, were freshly done, and made some headstones out of some cardboard we had in the garage, and just had the best time decorating the front yard. And I don't know, I was maybe 11, 12, somewhere in there. And I think that was really kind of the first time that I really owned doing a little bit more for Halloween than just dressing up and going trick-or-treating, or, helping my mom decorate, or kind of doing some of the traditions, carving pumpkins, that kind of stuff that we just always did as a family growing up. So yeah, I guess that was kind of my beginning moment. And then from there, I guess really kind of jumping into hosting a Halloween party was the next big thing. The next big milestone, I should say. I had a really terrible experience in Halloween. On Halloween in 2008, I was promised that I was going to this amazing party with the guy that I worked for. And he was like, it's going to be, costumes and tons of people and this, that, and the other. And it literally was him, me, his sister, and one other person. And I was like, this is the lamest Halloween party ever. I was promised something really big, and this is not it.
Well, and that party sounds awkward.
It was. But I went home that night and I'm like, okay, that's it. Next year I am hosting a Halloween party. I am doing something cool. And, in that next year, it just happened that I moved back home to Texas from where I was living, and had some friends come down to visit. And so we just gathered around the bonfire, roasted some hot dogs over the fire pit in my parents' backyard. And my mom jokingly called it a Halloweeny roast. And that was kind of how my party got started. And then it just sort of went from there. So then with the party, the next jumping off point was really, I was constantly trying to outdo myself with my themes that I do every year. And so I was, scouring the internet looking for ideas. And I wanted just like a singular place on the internet where I could find Halloween and where I could find party ideas and themes and just cool things that I could go duplicate myself. And it didn't exist. There was stuff out there, but there was not a single space dedicated to Halloween that I could find. So, being a writer and early on in my career, I was a journalist. When you don't find the thing that you want, you go and create it. So that's exactly what I did. And that's kind of how Spooky Little Halloween came to be. So write the Halloween blog you want.
And how many years now have you done Spooky Little Halloween?
This year actually is my 5th anniversary. Mid-September, September 14th will be my 5th anniversary of running the blog. And it feels like it hasn't been that long at all. It feels like I've maybe been at this 2 years, and yet it feels like something that's been part of my entire life. So
congratulations on your 5th spookiversary. I'll just add my own little term there.
Thank you.
Please tell me that you have at least one of Dennison's Bogie books. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I do not.
Oh my gosh.
I do not have one of these.
What's funny is if you research Dennison's Bogie books, and I talked about this with Lisa Morton, which is going to be an upcoming interview this season. Your blog is so like a modern version of Dennison's Bogie books in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Well, maybe not late 1800s, but this is the late Victorian times. This was a catalog that would come out every year with party tips and decorations. And, Dennison's was a company that produced kind of like Bystol.
I just pulled it up on my phone as we were talking.
There you go. I'm telling you, you can't, and they're very rare to actually find. 1920 was a really big one. And, but yeah, it's like Dennison's was like a Bystol, and they produced party decorations and the images, the pictures that you can find in this catalog. I've reprinted a lot of them, and I put them around as Halloween decorations.
Oh, I love that.
I put that on a Halloween altar. And so, yeah, I definitely check that out.
I have an internet rabbit hole to go down after this.
Oh, yes.
This absolutely looks like my style as I'm scrolling through these photos.
Yeah. When I was looking at your site, I was like, oh my God, I bet has a whole bunch of stuff that I would be, because I don't have one. I know other people who do have physical copies of it. And I'm just like, oh, I'm so jealous of you.
I think that's one of the things about, sharing what you love on the internet is there's always something new to find, to learn about, a new rabbit hole to go down that you had no idea existed before. So thank you for that one. I'm excited.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so proud that I can give you something Halloween now to go on for a while.
Yeah.
All right. Really serious questions. Is Purple People Eater a Halloween song?
No.
It's not? Okay.
Perhaps the only thing I am more serious about than Halloween is my love of music. No, that is not a Halloween song.
Why is it not a Halloween song?
Okay, just because the song is about a monster doesn't mean that it's automatically a Halloween song. And, I am guilty of this one. I know Zombie by the Cranberries is a really popular one for Halloween playlists, and it has nothing to do with anything Halloween. And I have since taken it off my playlist after a friend educated me about what it's actually about. And, I kind of advocate for, just because the lyrics drop like ghost or witch or whatever in there, it doesn't make it a Halloween song. Like, it needs to have a spooky sound, like an actual lyric that is related to Halloween somehow. We need some qualifiers here.
Oh, I am so there for that. 15, 20 minutes before our interview, I was actually looking for Halloween playlists on Apple Music because I was trying to get in the mood for this. And I get so annoyed when they do that. When on this playlist, I'm like looking for Halloween songs, and every title that just, happens to have one of those words in it, I'm like, what? And it put me out of the mood rather than put me in the mood.
Yep.
But I think the problem is there just isn't enough purely Halloween music out there. Or maybe we just haven't dug deep enough.
I'm going to disagree with you on that. I think if you put in a little bit of work, and I think it's more about, for me, it's been about coming up with like a theme or, something to kind of an idea to base a playlist around that has really kind of made that process more fun for me. I know I have on my, again, because I actually started a music blog before I did Spooky Little Halloween, which is kind of how I transitioned over to this side of things. But I have quite a few playlists over on my blog. And I know that's something that a lot of people always look forward to, like what's the next crazy thing she's going to come up with. I did one night last year, early fall. I was sitting in bed reading and I was like, I want like a, kind of quiet, chill Halloween playlist to listen to. And I couldn't really find one. And I was like, well, I guess I just need to create it myself because that's what we're doing around here, right? So I created one called Halloween and Chill, and it's, kind of a double entendre, I guess, with that name. But I mean, just kind of some quieter, softer Halloween songs that you could, put on for like, Sunday morning brunch during October, if you're, hanging out in bed reading while it's raining outside, So I kind of like finding those themes and then taking spooky songs and, building them into a playlist that way.
Oh my God, I love you. Is The Nightmare Before Christmas a Halloween movie or a Christmas movie?
Okay, so I am stealing this answer from my friend Susie. It is neither.
Okay.
It is a Thanksgiving movie. Because it crosses Thanksgiving is smack dab in the middle of Halloween and Christmas. So watch it on Thanksgiving.
I haven't heard that rationale yet.
Thank you, Susie.
Stop it. Okay.
I think that's genius. She told me that one time and I'm like, yes, that absolutely.
I can see that now. That totally makes sense.
To answer your question, I mean, not with a non-silly answer, I watch it at both. I'll usually watch it once in October. I'm more likely actually to watch it, I think, in December, though. It just, I don't know, it just gives me all the Halloween feels I still want to feel after it's over.
Well, for you, that wouldn't be a problem because you're Halloween all year round, I guess.
I am. Yep. I do Halloween at Christmas. So I have a blast with that.
All right. So let's do kind of like a speed round.
Okay.
So I'm going to like say a word or something and you can think of whatever comes off the top of your head, as much or as little as you want to say about it.
Okay.
Does that sound cool?
That sounds cool. Let's go.
Bats.
Bats. Yes, please. I love them. That's one of my, actually, I would love to have, if my mother would not she would disown me probably. I would love to have a pet bat. I just think they're the coolest animals. Like how, have a little bat house in your backyard. And yeah, my mother has had some experiences with bats, living in a log cabin in Wisconsin. And so she is not a fan of them and I don't blame her, but yeah.
I would probably pee a little if I found a bat in my house. So no, thank you on that one.
That's happened.
Okay. Candy corn.
No, thank you.
No, thank you. All right.
I literally 3 pieces is my limit. I absolutely love decorating with it. I love the colors. I think it is such a beautiful Halloween icon. Yes, please, all the decor with candy corn, but just don't make me eat more than 3 pieces. It won't be pretty. It's too sugary. I'm, my old age in my mid 30s now. Sugar is not my thing.
Do you keep it and reuse it if you're not eating it?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I have several, I have quite a few bags of very stale, rock hard candy corn that I use for decor year after year. Probably needs to be replaced at this point now that I'm thinking about it, but
that probably tells people why it probably shouldn't be consumed if it's still around.
Not safe to eat candy corn in my apartment. So come over, don't eat it.
Mary Jane peanut butter kisses.
Ugh.
Oh, really? I love them. I love them.
I know they're a very classic Halloween candy. I'm kind of picky about peanut butter. I like it, but I'm picky about it in my candy.
Okay. Scarecrows.
I love those. I would love to have an entire front yard full of scarecrows for Halloween decor. I think that'd be so fun. I love that they bridge the gap where they can go super cutesy or they can go super scary. There's I am not up to date on it, but there's an episode of Supernatural early on with the kind of a legend of a scarecrow in it. I love that episode. I think that is so much fun.
I haven't made a scarecrow in years, but when I was growing up for several years, we made scarecrows and always put, one of my dad's old work outfits on it and stuffed it. And it was interesting. It was fun. It's definitely a project. If you do it traditional with straw and everything, it's a project.
It's so much. I think that's something that's so fun and so easy to put together yourself too, because you can pull, old clothes out of the closet and put it all together. So, there's a fantastic idea for a front yard decor for Halloween 2020. Make your own scarecrow, as creepy or as scary as you want to make it.
There you go. Good idea. Clowns.
Nope. Nope.
I'm not getting very many yeses from you today. That's funny.
I know. I joke that I'm actually probably the worst Halloween fan in the world because there's a lot of very iconic classic things that people love and adore. And I am just not here for it. I am on a journey at the moment to fall in love with horror movies, and I'm getting there. I'm doing good. I've been assigned a watch list by my friend Matt, and I am slowly working my way through that. And I have genuinely found horror movies that I enjoy, but it is not on that list. But clowns, I don't know.
I think horror movies, there's an element of like nostalgia with horror movies. So I kind of think that you had to have, especially the classic, ones that everybody talks about, you had to have been around for when they first came out. Like a lot of the favorite movies and TV shows like that I watch on the Halloween season every year to get in the mood are all nostalgic to me. They're nostalgia. It's because I watched them growing up. And so that might be it. Of course, I'm not a big slasher movie person, but Halloween movies, Halloween H2O, which is probably on many people's lists for being a horrible movie, I absolutely love and have to watch it every season.
I really love that you kind of qualified it that way as it's nostalgia. Because now that I think about it, I don't know, I didn't watch a whole lot of movies growing up. That wasn't something we sat down and did regularly as a family or like went out to the movie theater. So I'm kind of playing a little bit of catch up. But the interesting thing, so one of the movies on that watch list was The Exorcist, and I kept avoiding it because everybody's like, oh my God, it's the scariest movie ever. And I was like, okay, like, I guess I shouldn't watch this alone at night in the dark because writer brain, my imagination has a tendency to run away with me, especially when I sleep. So I have some real interesting dreams sometimes after watching horror movies. So I was like psyching myself up to like, okay, I'm finally going to watch it. I'm going to do it. And I kind of like followed along on Instagram on my stories as I was watching it. And I kept waiting for the moment where it got scary and it never came. And I was like, okay, guys, what the heck? Like this is the scariest movie of all time. I don't get it. And so I kind of challenged people a little bit. And what I got back was, but I watched it when I was like 10, 11, 12. And I'm like, okay, so you were Reagan's age. So of course you were terrified of this. And you watched it, really young. And okay, I get it. It's a nostalgia thing. And at, 36, I'm not going to have that association with it.
Well, I didn't watch that movie until I was well into adulthood, actually. And it doesn't, things like that don't freak me out too much, but I can see how if you are not grounded or if you're already kind of in a weird place or if you're not sure about it as you're watching it, that you need to turn it off.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it was funny too, when I kind of challenged people on it, I'm like, okay, tell me what makes this scary. I fully expected the response to come back. Oh, I grew up Catholic. I'm religious, demonic possession, scariest thing I could think of. And I mean, like, no, I would not want to be possessed by a demon, but there are other things that are scarier to me. And I just was really surprised that I would say like 75, 80% of the responses I got were, no, I watched it when I was like Reagan's age. And I was like, okay.
Makes sense.
Okay. Makes sense. Got it.
Message received.
Yep.
Candles.
Love them. The more the merrier with candles. Are we talking, well, wait, let me back up. Are we talking fall scented candles or are we talking like for decor?
Oh,
they're very different things in my world.
Wherever you go with it. I mean, I love me some fall, winter candle, like baking scent candles and the spicy like fall candles. Love it. But I could also see, like, I also have some bleeding candles and, things like that.
Okay, so that is one of my areas where I am challenged with pumpkin spice or kind of fall scents, I guess. I will test them out. I will give them a try, but by and large, I'm not a huge fan of fall scented candles. They just, I don't know. I get headaches too, so candles are kind of it's a whole other realm. That's a whole other podcast interview.
That would be my husband. As much as I light candles, he blows them out behind me.
Yep, that would be me. That equation. But I love using them for decor. I love using them for decor for my parties too. I feel like candlelight adds such a fun, eerie element to Halloween. And it just it makes the scene in a way that, other lighting it can't hold a candle to it.
And nowadays, with so many alternatives to candles that are candle-like, I mean, you don't have a lot of excuses to not put 1,000 candles out.
So true. I really love all the like the pre-carved jack-o'-lanterns that are sold that you just, plug in or are battery operated. And I mean, to me, it loses a little bit of the magic when you don't have a real candle in there, but I get it, safety. Better safe than sorry. But I always love looking at those every year.
Oh, yeah. Well, speaking of jack-o'-lanterns, I know this is a question that you ask people. And so scary or funny jack-o'-lantern face?
It depends on my mood when I'm carving a pumpkin. I go either or. I guess I tend to err towards kind of the cutesy, maybe a little spooky sort of face more than a scary one. But I also, carving pumpkins is my favorite part of Halloween. I love pumpkin cuts. Like there is something so satisfying about that squish of pumpkin cuts. I love it.
I love it.
So I try to carve a couple throughout the Halloween season. So I'll do, I'll do a fun face. I'll do a scary face. I'll do, not a face at all, just like a cool, fun design. And I am not an expert pumpkin carver by any stretch of the imagination. They're fairly basic, but I love it. It's one of my favorite parts of Halloween.
That's funny. Joe used to be better with always participating in the jack-o'-lantern tradition with me. And he would have his jack-o'-lantern. I would have mine. And I'm very like classic triangle eyes, a few jagged teeth. To me, traditional jack-o'-lantern. And my husband would always do this like avant-garde. Like one year he made a barcode.
Oh, that's cool.
He did a barcode in a pumpkin. I'm like, what the hell? What is like, who does that? But nowadays I usually carve both of our pumpkins. And I do traditionally like to do a silly one or either a more scary one and a traditional one. I've so many times tried to completely recreate. I've done it 2 or 3 times. The Halloween movie.
Oh yeah.
Jack-o'-lantern. I've done that several times. I love that style.
Nice.
So I know what candy you don't like. What's the best candy?
Oh man. So as a kid, my favorite candy was Sweet Tarts. I know for most kids, it probably was some form of chocolate, but for me, it was Sweet Tarts. I always loved sour candies. And there was one year where I was determined to get as many of them as I could. So I traded away a significant amount of my chocolate. Like, we're talking Twix bars, Snicker bars, like.
Shut up. Are you serious?
Yeah. Like I traded those away.
I bet you got lots of Sweet Tarts then, because that was the last thing in my bag.
I did. I think I had like upwards of like 250, 300 packets of them. And I mean, don't ask me how long it took me to eat those. It probably was at least Easter the next year before they were gone. But yeah, those were my favorite as a kid. But now as an adult, almond Snickers are probably my all-time favorite. You can only find them in the mini size at Halloween, like in a bag by themselves. So my mom got me hooked on those. And that's probably my favorite candy as an adult.
So as a music person then, what's your favorite Halloween song?
Oh man. I bounce around on that one. There's one called The Ghost Who Walks by Karen Elson that I really love. She just has a beautiful voice and this, like the lyrical content of the song is lovely. I really enjoyed that. So I know it's a ministry song, but Every Day is Halloween. But there's a cover by a band called The Postmarks. And it's a female band, but it's just it's a very different take on that song. And I really like that. I know it's not on like Spotify, or I don't think it's on any streaming platforms, but if you pop over to YouTube, Every Day is Halloween by The Postmarks, like postmark what you put on an envelope. That one is really lovely. What else have I really loved lately? I don't know. I guess to go in a completely different direction too. Keeping Halloween Alive by Alice Cooper. That one is way up there for me too. Like that kind of feels like my anthem some days.
When you earlier mentioned a playlist that you had for like reading a book in your bed when it's raining outside and it's kind of chill, I'm gonna have to get with you on that one because my ears perked up on that one and I was like, must have.
Yep. We'll share that.
Awesome. Talk to us about Don't Be a Monster.
Yeah. So I am working with them this Halloween season. I am one of their brand ambassadors, and Don't Be a Monster is a nonprofit that delivers bullying prevention assemblies to schools all over the United States. They partner with haunted houses, and I think it's 20 different markets. And actually volunteers from the haunted attraction will go to schools in the area and deliver their presentation. And For me, I think it's something that all of us in the Halloween community can kind of relate to. I feel like we're kind of all the misfits of the world, and this is like our holiday to celebrate that. So a nonprofit centered around bullying prevention, which is something that I feel strongly about as somebody who was bullied when I was in school, and then also centered around Halloween. I don't know. I fell in love with them and was like, yes, please, absolutely. Whatever you want from me, take it.
I had never heard of this. And obviously as a teacher and a middle school teacher and someone who's very concerned about bullying and people feeling accepted and welcome and loved, I'm just like, wow. And you've even featured them and interviewed them on your blog as well. Don't be a monster.
Yeah, I did a Q&A with them so people could get to know them a little bit better, and lots more to come with them this Halloween season.
So I guess one of the biggest things, and I know you know this, and I would assume you have some ideas, but I know that people in general this year are worried about Halloween in 2020. And I've asked a few people this lately, like I asked Lisa this as well, like, are there going to be some permanent, effects that change Halloween for the future? Or do you think no? What can you tell us about ways that we can survive and still enjoy Halloween this year in a pandemic?
Well, I mean, I think I'll say the first thing is like, of all the years for this to happen, like I recognize that I just don't think there's any way around it. This sucks. I mean, Halloween is a Saturday. We get a full moon, a blue moon. We get kind of technically an extra hour because it's daylight savings time. So, I mean, it is just like a dagger to the heart that of all the Halloweens, this is the one where it's happening, where, things are going to look different. But that said, I think there's a lot of opportunity to still celebrate Halloween. It's not going to look the way it does in a typical year. We're probably not all going to be out at haunted houses or pumpkin patches, depending on what things look like in October, who knows? Because this whole thing changes day to day, it feels like. But, trick-or-treating might not be a thing this year. I'm hopeful that will return. But I think what we can do is just look for new or different ways to celebrate. So one of my things that I'll be sharing soon on the blog is ideas for new Halloween traditions that you could start. And maybe it's stuff, kind of that list of, we all kind of make a Halloween bucket list every year. I think whether we write it down physically or, you just have it in your head, all the things you want to do in October. So I would kind of challenge people, make one of those this year and then go and do all that stuff and maybe make it a point to get to that stuff that you don't get to every other year because you're too busy going to the haunted house or running by the pumpkin patch again or, shopping at Spirit Halloween for the 50th time. No judgment because that's me.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, I kind of like classic Halloween candies is what I think of, or like Halloween treats, making popcorn balls or caramel apples or something that I always want to do. And I just kind of never get around to. And I'm like, and next year, like go after that stuff this year. This is the year to do it. If we're all, going to be at home, still having a quarantine to some extent. And I think, I'm working on a list of, it's not quite finished yet, but working on list of ideas for trick-or-treating alternatives. So, if we can't go out in the neighborhood and, do that traditionally, other ways that we can, still have some semblance of that this year. So stay tuned to Spooky Little Halloween for that. But I mean, I think for a lot of us though in the Halloween community, we kind of already make everyday Halloween in some way. So just being ourselves and going out there and making the most of it.
That's a good point. Like so many people have brought up this year that this is a good time to look within and decide the parts of our world that we want to keep and what parts we want to ditch. And I know that mentally and like people's anxieties are in general like crazier this year. And that takes a lot of time and energy just to process that. But I mean, I can totally, like there are things that if I'm going to be here in the house more, there are things I can do that I've never tried.
Yeah. And I mean, like we were talking about carving pumpkins, one of my things on this list of new traditions to start, don't just do it once during Halloween season, maybe do every week, every 2 weeks, however frequently you want, carve a bunch of pumpkins and start in September as soon as they get, arrive in grocery stores or your local pumpkin patches start popping up. Like it doesn't have to be a just on Halloween thing. Do it regularly.
Great idea. What's the significance of this Halfoween thing that I see on your site?
Halfoween is the halfway to Halloween celebration. And Kind of depends on who you talk to. Some people honor it on April 30th, which is also Walpurgis night or Witches night. Some people celebrate it on May 1st. I personally celebrate it on May 2nd because mathematically that is the halfway point, 26 weeks to Halloween. It just so happens May 2nd is also my birthday. So it's a little self-serving, but kind of a fun little Halloween tidbit for a girl who loves October 31st so much.
It was meant to be.
It really was. And I was due on May 1st. So I guess somewhere in there, I just held out because I knew I needed to have a May 2nd birthday.
And you told me just a little behind the scenes. You told me this earlier, but you didn't even realize it was your exactly mathematically the halfway point to Halloween until after you were already into this stuff?
Oh yeah, I was probably like, I think maybe 2.5 years into running the blog. And I was going through finding kind of all the touch points through the year of, okay, this is, 300 days to Halloween, 250, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, well, let me do the math and see what exactly is like halfway to Halloween technically. And lo and behold, it was May 2nd. And I was like, that explains so much.
I think that would be some synchronicity, maybe.
Synchronicity, serendipity, happenstance, all the above.
Yeah.
Halloween magic. That's what it is.
Yes, it is. Some hocus pocus.
Yes.
Do you have any paranormal experiences?
I live with a ghost, so yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So tell us about your ghost.
Oh my gosh. This is like one of the most popular questions that I get too. I shared a little bit of it, and there's actually, you can read the full story on the blog too.
Okay.
So the story of my ghost is the name of the blog post if you want to go dig that up on Spooky Little Halloween. Well, yeah. So the building that I live in one of the oldest neighborhoods in Houston, just outside of downtown. It's called Montrose. And the building that I live in was finished, I believe, in like around 1910 or so. So it's been here for 100 years plus. And I actually used to live on the other side of the building. And I had a couple experiences where stuff would just like get knocked over in my apartment. And then in particular, I have a clock with a pendulum on it in my kitchen, and the pendulum would stop and start on its own. And I'm like, okay, I get like the battery running out and it's stopping. It doesn't start again on its own. So I just kind of started paying attention to all these little things. And I kind of had this feeling, kind of a little bit of intuition going on that, there was a ghost hanging around, and it wasn't anything malevolent. It was, it felt like a little girl, maybe like a tween sort of age, so like 10 to 12 age range. And she just was hanging out, saying hey, and let me know that she was there. And I was totally cool with that. And I don't know why, but when I was on the other side of the building, I just had this gut feeling that she lived in the apartment that I moved into. I moved to this side for a little bit more space so I could have this, office space and everything. And so when I was moving over, I was like, okay, like we're gonna see how this goes with the ghost. And like night number 2, maybe night 3 that I was on this side of the building, I was in my bedroom, sitting on my bed, and like, playing a game on my phone, something silly, mindless. And it felt like somebody walked into the side of my bed, like the whole thing shook. And I was like, I just put the phone down and I was like, okay, look. And we had a little heart to heart. And I told her, I get it. It's your building, but I have to live here too. Like I pay to live here. You are not paying the rent. I am. And, we have to coexist, and I'm cool with you being here. I don't mind you being here, but you can't do stuff like that because it freaks me out. And she has been quiet ever since. That was like 1.5 years ago.
That is exactly what I and so many, not that I'm at all an expert, but so many people suggest when they ask about how do I deal with this thing? And I'm like, well, first of all, how are you reacting to them? Are you treating them like, you would just any other person if you're wanting to, negotiate something, or have you asked kindly? Or are you just freaking out about it? I love how you solved that issue so simply.
It seems to have worked. And like, I honestly wouldn't mind her coming back and hanging out. It's been a little bit lonely quarantining by myself for 5 months now, but I keep joking too. I have my mom's old Ouija board that was manufactured in Salem back in like the maybe late 50s, early 60s. And I keep joking that, maybe one of these times on Instagram Live, I'm going to bust out the Ouija board and see if I can get the ghost to communicate with me. But I feel like there's kind of a very fine line in inviting a ghost into your life, because you might feel like it's okay. It's just this little girl and she's cool, but who knows what kind of baggage, she's bringing with her. So we can coexist, but like, I don't want to invite you too far into my life.
Well, I approve in your Ouija session there. So
okay. You're literally the only one. Everybody else is like, no, do not do that.
I am very pro Ouija board, but also like...
We just became best friends.
Oh, awesome. Okay. But I'm just... Also, what I'm going to say is like most of the time a Ouija board is just a coaster for me because nothing happens when I typically sit at a Ouija board, and I've tried for years. My friend Karen A. Dahlman, her and I can get together and it kind of does some things, and she's an expert on all things Ouija. You need to check her out.
Okay. Noted.
I also have a lot of skepticism about Ouija boards because I'm like, really? They're really that scary? Because it's chilling out on my desk as a coaster. So, and then I also get yelled at for mistreating my Ouija boards by Karen for having it be a coaster. So... Well, give us any of your final thoughts that you might have today, because we could talk for days, and then tell people where to find you and maybe what's coming up if you haven't already mentioned it.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is, we all love Halloween dearly, and I know we're all kind of feeling, oh God, what is it actually going to look like this year? So I have kind of tried to step in a little bit. I put together a list of all the ways that I'm going to try and save Halloween 2020. It's over on spookylittlehalloween.com. It's right there on the homepage, so you can get to it. And I'm doing things like participating in a fun run to kind of kick off, virtual fun run, I should say, to kick off Halloween season. I am putting out a printed Quarantino-ween zine full of ideas for how we can still celebrate. You can buy a copy of that, get it mailed to you. I always do a ton of like tips and tricks sort of blog posts, and there are tons of those coming this fall. I'm going to be hosting some social media contests to kind of get everybody in the mood, creating fun, Halloween cocktails and mocktails, DIY projects, maybe a little pumpkin carving contest, a costume challenge. So just kind of all the sorts of things that, we typically do to celebrate Halloween, maybe in our personal lives, but we're going to do it all together online because I feel like, if we can't go out and do everything that we're normally used to, let's get together on the internet and celebrate. I think we have a really unique opportunity to do that this year, and then also kind of be that person in our neighborhood and our families' lives. Be the person that's championing. Can't say that. Celebrating Halloween 2020 this year. So all that more over at spookylittlehalloween.com. Come hang out with us.
What does the fan of your blog, the reader of your blog, who are they? What do they look like?
Oh man, I love that question. That is such a thing too when you live in the blogging world, to know who your ideal reader is. And I could go through my Google Analytics and tell you all the boring stuff, but I feel like my ideal reader is kind of myself. Is that too self-involved to say? But kind of like I said,
I think we draw those people in.
Yeah. And that's something that I kind of try to remind people too, because they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you do all this stuff. Like, I can't believe I just found you, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, guys, I'm just like you. I love Halloween too. Like, I am writing this for, you to enjoy as much as I am for myself. So, I guess I kind of like really my ideal reader and who I write my blog for is me. And then it just kind of has gone from there. Honestly, when I started it, that literally is why I started it. I never intended for it to become a thing and have like a small city following me on social media. It was really just a place for me to kind of capture my ideas for my Halloween parties and then share photos, and it just spiraled. So here we are 5 years later.
Would you say Instagram is your main social media hub, or do you also do some Facebook?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. Those are kind of my the big four. But Instagram, honestly, is my favorite place to hang out, and pretty active on Facebook as well. So yeah, if you're out there on social media and need a little Halloween in your feed, come find me on Instagram, Spooky Little Halloween, or same name over on Facebook.
Miranda Enzor, you rock.
Thank you.
Thank you to the following super Paranerds who support the show at patreon.com/Big Seance. James Deacon, Melissa Armour, Anne Marie Sullivan, Justin J. Justin, Genesis, Natalie, Kim Robb, Jim Budd, Josiel Lorenzo, Susan Davey, Paula Mitchell, and Amy Park Gedicke. My supporters at the Parlor guest level, who can be found at bigseance.com/Parlor guests, are Linda of shimmeringmoons.com, Denise Sia of Mystic Moms Paranormal, Anne Rekovich of ozparatech.com, Gretchen of Adirondack Aromatherapy, Hope Battaglia, Cassie Keller, David Rubenstein, Glenna Becker, Diane Rax, Nettie, Dina DeCastro of Dina DeCastro Astrology, Peggy Hagen, Marion Hover Clairvoyant, Bruce Williams, Lana and John of Carbon Lilies, and Norman and Linda Keller. That sound you just heard was the above and beyond there's not even a category for your level of support fireworks display. Because I have 4 awesome listeners who support the show at the $10 level. Steve Skinner, Kevin Gilbert, AJ Meredith, and James Wilfong. So thank you, Steve, Kevin, AJ, and James. And thank you, Paranerds.
For show notes, including links to anything we may have mentioned in this episode, visit bigseance.com. You can find and subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and just about anywhere podcasts are found. Do you have any comments or feedback? Go to bigseance.com/feedback to learn how to get your voice in a future show. Or you can call my feedback line, 7755-TELL-ME. That's 775-583-5563. Interested in learning how to promote and share the podcast? Go to bigseance.com/share. Thank you so much for listening. Unfortunately, it's time to blow the candles out, but we'll see you and light them again next time.